bushfires are becoming, or wildfires are becoming more of an issue. With much drier summers. In the last few years there's been some really big fires on the west coast. We had a pretty big fire in here last year, which was challenging under COVID because we couldn't get hold of enough people to go out to it, and the fire brigade were fighting it for days. They're going to become more common. Partly they become more common anyway because of our open access codes, so people are going wild camping, are able to go places where they maybe years ago wouldn't think of going, and they're having open fires. The popularity of bushcraft. Everybody's watched Ray Mears and Bear Grylls and think they can go off and build themselves a timber shelter and have a fire. And unfortunately what we're finding is that sometimes the results we get are almost wanton vandalism because they're cutting down trees to build their shelters. They're not using natural materials, so you'll find this ropey old shelter that they've used from cut down trees that they've cut down, and they're using polypropylene rope which won't break down, so it's littering as well. Campfires is a big thing where people are just not putting fires out properly, and they're left smouldering, and we have to pick up the pieces with forest fire later on. We're lucky that we haven't had anything too catastrophic. I've been to a few fires in my time. I'm lucky I've never been at one that's got into a mature canopy that you would get in the States or something like that. Trouble is, it's only going to get worse. I saw a guy in the documentary just a few months ago from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and he said the trouble is, in the future, the fires are going to get more common, and we're going to get fires more like we would see in Portugal and Spain, the scrub. You know, some of these scrub fires you guys get.
Yeah, sorry?
It's kind of scrub fires you get in Portugal and Spain in the summer.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, in my region, we had like a really big one, like 1 month ago.
Yeah.
It was really...
Well, our fire and rescue service are saying with climate change, that's going to be happening here.
Yes, and the pine as well.
Yeah, and the pine is particularly dry in this part of the country. You wouldn't believe it today, but we're getting these drier summers, hotter summers, more people enjoying the countryside, having campfires. It's only going to get worse, and the fire and rescue service are saying it's only a matter of time before we get some kind of fire where we're going to lose people's life, or properties are going to be endangered. So that's another issue to think about. But we have this open access in Scotland, and I do wonder sometimes it's just what they've done is they've changed the law where people can exercise the right of access, and it's their responsibility to act properly. All the responsibilities on them to act properly. So no one's going to catch them in the middle of the forest. So of course you get the responsible ones come out. Only takes one, has a campfire, doesn't put it out properly, and then you end up with a fire. So that's going to be a big struggle. Somebody spotted we've got some old steel tanks that have driven past. Because there's so little fresh water in Culbin for firefighting, decades ago they put these big metal tanks out just to catch any rainwater. And they're supposed to be used for fighting fires. On a practical basis, they're probably far too small. They keep you going for 5 minutes on a big fire. But we actually put holes in most of them last summer because we had a problem during a very dry spell. We had red squirrels coming to drink out of them, and they fell in and couldn't get out. So we actually had about 5 red squirrels down in one of them. So we rushed around very quickly and put holes in them or smashed them up so they couldn't hold water. There's 1 or 2 left that have a mesh screen on the top, and they've left them. But in a practical sense, they're not much good in the fire, they're just far too small. So the worry is if we get a big fire in Culbin, all the water's got to be trucked in to fight that. And this is a huge issue. And again, water itself is an issue. If you can't find a water course nearby, or a substantial water course to give you a water supply, you could have a fire and you've got nothing to fight it. So, very difficult. I've been at a few. I was at Hillfire in I did my middle year from college in Argyll, and I was at Hillfire in Heather, and that was scary enough. But we've put out a combination of beaters working alongside a helicopter. Really good operation. The pilot landed first and told us exactly what he wanted us to do, and we just worked and coordinated everything with him. But that's in Heather. Once you get the canopy, just forget it. We don't have the kit in this country to fight that kind of stuff at the moment. I sometimes think in top, when we've got our resilience manager at head office, I sometimes think on the top of his list should be forest fires, along with all the other problems we've got with climate change, because we don't have the kit to fight it. We're actually, under our rules, we're not allowed to fight fires. Our management takes the opinion that we are trained in forestry, we are not trained firefighters, so we're actually not allowed to fight fires. We're there to assist the fire service in any way we can, but physically we are not supposed to go and fight fires. So actually we're having to rely on Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, who have limited resources. So I think this is a problem that's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a disaster. We're going to lose a whole forest.
And other countries have specialist units
Yeah.
Yes, I
that
was
kind of
going
go
to ask
straight.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in Portugal, I lived there, and they didn't have in the past, I don't know now, like a special unit. And it was a disaster for them because of that. You know, because someone that is like putting off a fire in a city has to go to the forest, and it's like, you know, they didn't have a proper training.
What I found when I've been to forest fires, I've been big one in Argyll. Well, I say forest fire, hellfire in Argyll in the middle here. I did a couple in Wales when I worked there, and then I was up in Caithness for a while. I had quite a bit. The biggest one I had was up there, and that was in thicket stage. That was scary enough because it's in stuff that height. So suddenly it's in stuff that can jump and overtake you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the closest to like a big canopy fire I've been to, and that was scary as hell. And what I find a lot of the guys, the rural brigades aren't too bad, but if you're getting somebody come out from the Elgin in a fire tender, they're used to fighting on fires in an urban situation, and they're not trained or experienced to tackle it on the open hill. And of course, years ago we used to have squads, and we'd all been at fires before, and we knew what to do. And those guys didn't. The classic mistake is when you get a fire beater, is you get guys and they're going like this, whack, 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 and all you're doing is you're showering sparks everywhere, but you're also blowing air sideways and just feeding the fire on either side. So your beater, you keep low and you just smother, rather than actually hit the flame, just smothering it in a small space and just moving along. So the trouble is we're losing that experience as we lose older staff. But then we're being told we're not being trained to fight fires, and we're not supposed to fight fires because we're not firefighters. So that right away you've got a resource who knows the forest, and they're not being used. So we'll end up guiding the fire service in, go and get them sandwiches and water or whatever, that kind of thing, kind of practical support. But that's it. That's all we'll do. So I think we're missing a trick, because I think it's still going to get worse, and the fire service aren't going to have the staff or the resources to deal with it. So.
I think the Scottish fire strategy is still in draft stage. They haven't really drawn anything up, and it's still very vague. So
we have contracts with various helicopter firms, so we can call in a helicopter.
Okay.
And when you get one working properly, it was a company called PLM from Inverness who merged with Dollar Helicopters, and they now form PDG, based at Inverness mainly. The fire fought in Argyll. And what the pilot said later is what usually happens when there's a fire and they need a helicopter. The helicopter arrives and everyone else pisses off because they think the helicopter will deal with it. He can't work on his own. It's not effective. Because that hellfire we fought, it was in heather, knee-deep heather, but it was dry as Tundareen in Argyll. And it was on a long, long front. So what you do is you space out your meters along the front. He comes in at one end, dumps his load of water, and then the guys just move in and you're mopping up behind him. And you basically just move along that front as he comes in. This is the helicopter on his own can't do it, because he'll bomb it, and you might move on to the next bit, but you know there's bits that's been missed, and that's just going to start up again. You have to have the guys come in behind and mop up, and that's really, really effective. When you see it done properly, it's really effective. But we don't have these big, like these Canadian de Havilland water bombers. You know, seaplanes, and they can just come in, pick up a load of water and off and dump it. We just don't have that kind of kit.
That's the most efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, because it's big. I mean, converted C-130 and stuff, which can deliver massive amounts of water very quickly. I mean, even when we were in that fire in Argyll, there was a hill log close by, so he was gone, filled his bucket up and back within minutes. and sometimes you don't always have that
No.
available. So again, we had a big fire in Moray in a private estate last year that killed off quite a big area. So it's only going to happen more often. And I just think, again, I think as a government agency we should be kind of leading rather than just following on behind. We should be maybe putting a bit more money into it, but that's just the way it goes at the moment. But it's it's going to be an issue.
It's maybe a bit of a stupid question coming up here.
No,
but,
if you don't know the answer, it's not.
why couldn't they just take water from there? The helicopters.
In theory, there's nothing stopping the helicopters doing that.
Okay.
If you're some of these Canadian water bombers, they could do the same.
Yeah.
The only issue is you can't use pumps.
Right.
Salt water for the pump will just rust.
Okay.
You just destroy the pump.
But usually as well, I think that sometimes the plane or the helicopter, the water, they have like a kind of liquid, like retardant, something like that. As well, it's not just water. I don't know.
Yeah, also powders as well.
Yeah,
that
they
they,
got powders,
yeah.
powdered foams.
Ready powder that you see them dropping sometimes.
Yeah.
Powder.
We've got
I just
foaming
invent
units
a
as
word
well.
like retardant.
yeah,
It's okay in English, no?
Yeah, no. What's
No.
that? What?
Like retardant, something like that. It's okay.
Retardants.
It's I don't know, like
Yeah,
it's a Spanish word. I try to put like in
Yeah,
English to use in English.
it works sometimes, doesn't it?
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not in this case.
No, yeah, when something's flame retardant.
Okay.
Yeah, so a retardant could be a powder, could be a gel or something. Yeah, yeah. But you're right.
No.
No, I used to do it all the time in Spanish, try and just translate something from just put an E on the end or
The minute you start damning a burn seeker, just
They
start
don't like that.
going crazy. You're thinking, no, you can't do that. So, well,
They're not
so
fans
that's
of
before it
dredging
comes
either.
down, you know. So there's all sorts of issues.
Yeah.
But on the upside, if the forest burns down, you don't have to worry about pathogens.
just start again.
You
Yeah.
start again.
And you've got a nice, possibly an ash bed to.
You get an
regrow
ash
through,
bed, no brash,
Yeah.
dog of the plant.
Yeah.
Ready for planting.
Yeah. There you go. What, is it hot planting? Hot planting. So I think I've had too much coffee. It's getting silly now, isn't it?
Forestry humour. This is like.
Right, we'll hoof it back. We'll